Hey there, and welcome to the top 5 problems that new real estate investors often face when buying their first fix and flip project. Let's go ahead and get started with number 5, setting an unrealistic timetable. A lot of times new investors don't understand exactly how long a project is going to take to complete, and so they set this unrealistic timetable for when the project will begin and when the project will end and when they can finally get it on the market. So a lot of times it's not just once the work gets started that you don't have an understanding of the timetable it'll take to get complete, but it's even getting the contractors and the entire ball rolling in the first place. Because you got to work with the city sometimes, you got to get permits, you got to get materials, you got to get assessments, and so you really have to have a real solid understanding of how long all of that is going to take to complete so that you can set that realistic timetable. How long is this going to take me? Because the entire time that you have the project, you got to pay for the project, and those are called holding costs. Another thing is not accounting for setbacks and unexpected issues as they arise. Many new investors just create that perfect scenario timeline. I don't know if it's because they're in denial or they're just really naive, but they totally get thrown off by surprises and setbacks as they come along. And the third thing is not creating a project plan and calendar and then sticking to it while you are going through the project, because time can really get away from you if you don't monitor it, especially once you've hired contractors, all right? You might not be the only job that this contractor has taken on, and if you don't stay on top of everyone that you've hired, and also if you don't stay on top of yourself, you can lose a lot of time as the project goes on. Number 4, trying to do too much on your own. You got to understand that yes, you get the big payout in the end and not hourly, so it can be kind of hard to have that frame of reference in your mind. And tell yourself, like, it's okay, I'm just going to spend more time on the project rather than money on the project. But here's the thing, because you're getting that big payout in the end and you're not getting paid hourly, you can't really see what your hourly wage is. So oftentimes when new investors actually track their hours and then they divide the net profit that they made from the sale by the number of hours that they personally spent working on the project, a lot of times people are not too impressed with what the hourly wage actually works out to be. And then the second thing is you spread yourself too thin when you do too much of your own project on your own. What this means is you're unable to take on other projects and you make less money in the end. A lot of people have this misconception that if you can save a buck here and there by doing the work yourself, that's great. But what you're doing is you're limiting yourself to just one project at a time because you're so busy doing the work yourself. If you would have just hired people and spread the work out, you could have spread yourself out. You could have taken on more projects at once, making more money in the long run because you were able to crank out more flips. Volume is key, and you need to remember that. Number 3 is the inability to secure financing. If you don't have the money or you can't get the money, then you can't do the project, right? And that's a bummer. So a lot of times new investors complain that they can't secure financing from a bank or a credit union or other institutional lender. And then a lot of times people, they know about this concept of a private money lender. That's what PML stands for. And they don't know how to ask for private money. They don't know where to find a private money lender, or maybe just asking somebody to borrow money is just way too scary in the beginning. And then sometimes a struggle that a lot of new investors say is, I'm not afraid to ask people to lend me money. I know who to ask, but it's because of my lack of experience. I don't have any projects under my belt. These private money lenders think that I lack credibility. And so for a lot of new investors, this can be a struggle at first. So securing forms of creative financing being something outside of the bank or other institutional lender, these are really, really great tools that you can use to close on investment deals, but it can be one of the scariest components and then one of the biggest hurdles that a new investor might face. But the best way to tackle this is just put yourself out there, risk mild rejection and embarrassment so that you don't instead miss out on the big opportunity. Number 2 is underestimating expenses, underestimating how much this project is going to cost you. So this is done when you don't accurately assess or accurately inspect the property. You don't have that clear picture of what it's actually going to take and how much it's actually going to cost. So a lot of people who are in investing Most people don't have a background in contracting or construction, so you're not necessarily able to accurately assess the repairs, and you might get caught off guard later by the actual cost if you're not taking the time to do really accurate assessments yourself, or hiring people at first to come out and do this stuff for you. And then sometimes when you underestimate expenses, it's because you had an unrealistic scope of everything that was necessary. So you got to remember that little ticket items add up quickly. You're probably going to take all of the big ticket items into account, but a lot of newbies don't account for the little things. So little ticket items add up alarmingly fast. Each time you got to run out for another tube of silicone, you got to install new door locks because you didn't really think about that. Like, oh my gosh, all the window screens that we got to replace in this whole house. So people are generally going to assess the big ticket items like flooring and paint, and if you're remodeling kitchen and bath and things like that. But all those little things, you got to take all of that stuff into account too, because it affects your bottom line. And then the number one struggle that a lot of new real estate investors face is overpaying. And this is a two-part, whether you're overpaying for the purchase price of the property or you end up overpaying in your remodel and rehab costs. So let's focus on that purchase price. You overpay for your purchase price when you don't accurately calculate ARV. And ARV stands for after repair value. All right, basically that just means once you have repaired and remodeled the house, what is the property going to be worth at today's market value? So figuring out ARV is a really simple formula, but if you don't know how to calculate it, or you don't have accurate market data to use to calculate it, you can devastatingly miss the mark on your actual net profit in the end. Another way you can overpay for the purchase price, new investors oftentimes aren't willing to pass on a deal that's priced too high because they're just so excited to have a deal on the table, and they get itchy trigger finger. Means they go through with a deal that doesn't really have enough spread just because they're so excited to do something or get rolling. And then oftentimes at first, some new investors aren't confident enough to negotiate for a lower price on the home, and lacking this skill affects their bottom line. And if not enough money is made in the end, a lot of new investors just end up quitting. Because think about it, you put all this time, you put all this effort, you put all this money into the project, and then in the end you didn't even really profit that much. Are you going to keep going? No. But had you had some negotiation skills or some calculation skills, you could have avoided overpaying on the purchase price of your home. So now let's tackle that remodel or rehab cost. A lot of new investors will spend top dollar on a remodel when it's not even necessary. And this can be due to the location, or the return on investment for a high-end remodel versus average remodel just doesn't add up. So basically what this means is no thanks to HGTV, no offense to them, but because people are watching these programs, many new investors have it in their head that every property needs to be this top dollar, amazing, over the top remodel in order to be considered a true fix and flip. And that's just not true. Many people don't realize that the quality of a remodel is actually relative to the location of the property. Where are you buying your property? Do you need that high-end stuff, or is the average stuff going to be just fine? So sometimes a lot of people will do the top dollar remodel, like they'll put in granite countertops in a kitchen when laminate countertops would have been just fine for the area that they're working in. Or maybe they think, I gotta gut the entire bathroom, when a simple tub reglaze would have sufficed for the project. And then a lot of new investors also don't calculate the return on investment for a high-end remodel to see if it's even worth it. So for example, if you spend $30,000 just on remodeling the kitchen, this isn't including everything else you're spending, this is just for the kitchen remodel, but then when the home sells, you only actually get $10,000 more for that house than a home that had just an average, maybe even outdated kitchen, then you find the money and the time that you spent on that extra remodeling was nice for the new person, the new homeowner that comes in and gets your house, but it is not so nice to your bottom line. You overspent, which means in the end, you are going to be underpaid. So I put together this top 5 list because these are the biggest obstacles that I faced as a new investor. And as I work with and I talk with other investors, whether these investors are new to the game or they're seasoned, these are the same 5 challenges that I hear people talk about in conversations that I have with them over and over again. When I was first getting started, these are the things I struggled with. And so these seem to be, in general, the 5 major things that people struggle with when they're first getting into the game. So I learned how to overcome these 5 obstacles in my investment game, either through just straight up trial and error or falling on my face, or because I was fortunate enough to avoid a few of these things from the teachings I soaked in from other experienced investors, whether I'm following people on YouTube or social media, or I'm actually face-to-face networking with them out at real estate investor networking events. So if you would rather avoid these common obstacles and struggles that other new investors are facing, and if learning from others' mistakes rather than making your own sounds more appealing to you, then go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, because I share everything that I'm doing as an investor with you. So you guys, I'm a former teacher, and I am a work-at-home mom. I have an education degree, not a business degree. I got into this with 0 real estate experience, 0 contracting or construction experience. I have no background in that. Basically what I do is I chase around 2 little boys all day long. I do not have copious amounts of time, but I am still able to make it happen. So if I can do it, you can do it, and that is why you should follow along, because I'm just trying to be out there setting an example for people to learn from. All right, I want you to learn from my mistakes and soak up anything that you can. Alright, so go ahead and click subscribe, and if you have any specific questions on one of these top 5 things, because I know I went through the top 5 items, but I didn't actually give you solutions to them. So if you've got questions on how can I solve this thing or that thing in my own experience, just go ahead and drop a comment, and I would love to answer your question, or you can send me a direct message, send me an email, or if you've got my phone number, you can even text me or call me, alright? I'm not super hard to track down or find, and I'm always open to answering anybody's questions, alright? So I hope you guys got a lot from this video. I hope you learned a ton. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.